London's Falling by David Byerlee. Chapter 1. September. Sofia, Bulgaria. A maxi stretch pulled up sharply outside the Stella Club and two backup cars soon followed. The custom-made vehicle, its white exterior gleaming under the floodlights, was a fortress on wheels complete with composite bullet-proof glass, able to withstand most heavy-caliber gunfire. Battle-tested, self-sealing Kevlar fuel tanks and a blast-proof titanium undercarriage offered further protection for its valuable cargo. All routine insurance at a premium price and worth every euro. Strolling pedestrians joined a waiting crowd, which had stopped to watch and cheer, as though being honored by a royal visitation. As the car door was opened by a hurrying functionary in formal attire, the celebrity couple of the hour stepped out to a scattering of applause and cheers. Elegantly dressed and beaming at the recognition, they were soon joined on their flanks by security men in a kind of guard of honor. All moved with casual grace towards the newly opened Stella nightclub. As one of the financiers of this latest emblem of the new Bulgaria, Constantine Czerback was the unofficial guest of honor at this premiere, as too, of course, was his partner Stella, the very special lady whose name graced the marquee on this wonderful starry night. She blew an air kiss and mouthed the words, "Thank you." Constantine stopped the procession for a moment in appreciation of the fawning crowd and twirling theatrical lights. Bathed in a spectrum of shifting colors, he wanted to savor this arrival, this latest recognition, more completely. He pointed and winked at an especially enthusiastic fan. The woman screamed in response and shouted, "I love you!" An excited photographer in the crowd tried to take a picture, only to have his camera abruptly confiscated by a stiff-armed minder who wasn't about to negotiate. It was all over before anybody took much notice. Quickly, efficiently. The shouting paparazzo was hustled around the corner to be dealt with, his survival by no means certain. Tonight, this uninvited nuisance was lucky. A quick beating with expert telling blows left him semi-conscious but still breathing. The dispenser of this serrated justice had been honored to be assigned to Mr. Czerback's security team and took his job seriously. His brief would not tolerate intrusion or unwanted attention of any kind on this, the most special of nights. Anton left a calling card to remind the worm drifting in and out of consciousness of his responsibilities. Yes, this opening tonight was to be yet another success for Constantine and his Nova Sofia, even if the Balkan capital, post-communist, now catered more for the tourists or the wealthy and connected than for the average citizen of more modest means. In that the new Bulgaria was not much different from the old, even if tangible progress could be seen in glittering office and apartment buildings like the one Constantine and his people were about to enter. Once inside the gaping mouth entrance of the club, Constantine nodded to his bodyguards, Anton, Gilis, and Marko Shivkov, to check the exits and secure the environs. It was a standard precaution, routine. Establish situational awareness in as short a time frame as possible. Act appropriately as and when needed. These men were good at what they did and were paid a wage commensurate with their unique talents. Military trained and more, it was what they did, and they did it quickly, efficiently. The security drill was in constant motion. Exits, rooftops, all vantage points and blind spots checked, rechecked. All parked vehicles examined for explosive devices or anomalies of any kind. Such precautions were a priority, considering the scale of risk as well as recent experience. Khan's decapitation or elimination by other means didn't bear thinking about. The financial fallout alone could easily devastate an already fragile local economy. Stick to the routine, but anticipate had become the mantra, after constant drilling and a few uncomfortable reality checks. All personnel, listed and unlisted, guests checked and double-checked on arrival and departure. As usual, Gila stayed close by the rear door to secure an escape if needed. Sophia had been quiet of late, and that in itself was cause for concern. It was all going to plan, but already Con was beginning to feel restless. He saw Christiana, his favorite dancer and occasional lover, wave and smile at him. He returned the gesture but didn't linger. This was Stella's night as much as his, and he could not, would not embarrass her. Even without his spreading influence or notoriety, this power couple would not have failed to turn heads. Their combinatorial attraction was so striking. Now, local fame had spread exponentially with success, and Constantine was on the cusp of becoming a truly national, even international figure. In all this there was a certain irony. Bulgaria had grown too small for a man of his ambition, and tonight's festivities would be something of a farewell, even if that fact had been kept secret from all but a few. Leaving this place, he had called home for much of his life, would not be easy, even if it was necessary. Con knew that this almost embarrassing adoration, to be found practically wherever he went, also inspired envy and resentment. Tonight, as always, he was wary in the midst of it all, and the fleeting sense of relaxation disappeared with that persistent thought. Con kissed Stella fully on the lips and then let her go. As she slipped from his grasp, he smiled his appreciation. There could be no one like Stella, this woman who understood him like no other. So he felt lucky, in a life filled with good fortune, to have found her. "Enjoy," he called after her in English as she walked, then sashayed playfully to the dance floor. He watched her with a voyeur's gimlet-eyed interest as she and an equally attractive lady companion did a slow dance. The strange attractor melded with his lover as two became one. Perhaps they thought it turned him on, and they were absolutely correct about that. Constantine didn't dance, but liked to watch others do that, and other things. He flared his nostrils and drew in the atmosphere. He began to clap, and then signaled for the other watchers to join in. This they did, following his quick, erratic beat, as the pretty duo broke into lively salsa, then a tango. Laughing and clapping, he moved to the catchy Latino beat, all instruments, including flute and bongos, expertly played by a band that had traveled from as far as Vienna. The hot pair, twins of bodily perfection, abruptly broke into fast waltz, and the music segued effortlessly up to the sharper cadence. Stella placed her hand theatrically on her partner's hip, then dipped her down, then back up with practiced skill, only just managing to avoid a collision with the hard parquet floor that shone so prettily under the 1,000-candle chandelier. Someone threw Stella a single rose, and she caught it and placed it in her mouth, just as her split-skirted dance partner was pulled safely back into waiting arms. A circling crowd of vetted admirers broke into applause. Some timidly drifted onto the floor, and then, with further encouragement from a beaming, clapping Con, others quickly joined until the dance floor was full. The astute band shifted the mood music yet again, this time to a thrilling orchestral piece by Mozart. Instantly the ambiance seemed less rakish, more regal and baroque. The show Constantine had been watching with special interest was over. The gorgeous stranger left as quickly as she had appeared, and a blushing Stella went to embrace, then kiss the man who had made her happier, greater, more alive than she ever imagined possible. She had told him this enough times to convince him it was true, and it was. They joined other tables and exchanged greetings with their many guests, including the mayor. As usual, he had his party seated near the dance floor, a convenience for the dance-mad Stella if not for security. Minders in sunglasses stood about with studied, vacant looks, trying to be inconspicuous and fooling no one. They were the invisible ones, there and not there all at once, like entangled photons that stayed the same even when separated by vast distance. These shadow men were inextricably bound with their boss and each other in that order. "My darling, I took the liberty of ordering something I thought you would like," he said in a thick baritone. "Oh, yes, I love surprises," she replied in Bulgarian to his English as she took her seat at the table. English was something he wanted her to work on, encouraged her to use, but she didn't feel confident enough to air it in public, not yet, and not at this hour and in this place. That would all come later, in a different reality and new world in London. They were only now being served by a darting waiter and a bowing wine server who handed him the wine list with a flourish that Stella found amusing, even if she took pains not to show it. Each bottle cost thousands of US dollars, yet that was only the beginning of his generosity tonight. Con had a surprise for her in the shape of a huge African diamond, and he looked forward to her reaction. Her partner downed another liqueur. The more Con drank, the more garrulous, the more expansive he grew. "You know, Sofia is not such a bad town when you look at it from the right viewpoint, yes?" Stella smiled and replied in her Romanian-accented Bulgarian, "It's home. This is your place, and these are your people. You belong here, Constantine. We all love you. You can see that, can't you?" She took a sip of wine and looked at him with wide, unblinking hazel eyes. It was what he wanted to hear, and he instantly rewarded her with a kiss on the forehead. She knew what to say to please him, and knew when to shut it. Tonight she would be no different. Perfection. "You are good for me, Stella," he said as he kissed her hand. "Very, very good. You are my treasure. This you know, yes? As he spoke, he saw a figure dart through his peripheral vision, and he stopped in mid-sentence. Something instinctive kicked in, and he pulled Stella towards him. Then he did a half-roll and dived for the floor. The cause of this potentially embarrassing yet protective action ceased his blur of motion and stopped. The man obviously didn't have dancing in mind. Con reached for a tiny electronic handgun concealed in a calf holster and tried to get a better visual fix on what was happening. The tall, white-suited man, carrying what could be a covered pool stick, dropped to his knees and pulled out what Con recognized as a sawn-off shotgun. There was a sense of suspended animation, a slowing of time. Then came shooting. The heavy-caliber bullets tore through the newly decorated nightclub like a metal storm, ripping up masonry, furniture, and sending glass projectiles from mirrored walls and windows faster than the sound that followed. The once happy crowd had scattered amid screams and a scrum of stumbling, shoving panic. Peering from underneath the heavy table that had already sustained hits and had only just managed to save them, Con fired off 2 rounds. They got nowhere. More fire. A young silk-clad woman was struck in the upper body and then collapsed in a shower of cordite. A geyser of scarlet blood gushed from her neck, and he quickly turned away so as not to be diverted. She was gone. It was tragic. Move on. Lives depended on it.